You see them online, real estate entrepreneurs. But how are they doing it? And what are they doing different? We've got the answers. This is the Real Estate Block. Interviewing real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent real estate deals. If you want to be a real estate entrepreneur or you're already in the business, we've got on the pros that give the secrets and strategies to make it happen. This is the Real Estate Block, and this is your host, Aaron Gaunt.
All right. Welcome to the Real Estate Block podcast, where the value given during this show will help you find and create consistent real estate deal flow, where we talk with real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent deals month after month. We will be taking a deep dive and asking those hard questions on what their team looks like, their marketing strategies, and their systems and processes to build that had them build a machine that gives them consistent deals. So today I have Austin on the show, man. What's up, man?
What's going on, Aaron? How you been, man?
Doing good. I thank you so much for coming on here. I know you're going to bring tremendous value. So tell us, what were you doing prior to real estate, and why the heck did you decide to get into this crazy world of real estate?
Awesome. Yeah. So my story kind of starts with construction. So I grew up with a father that owned a construction company. And so when you grow up with a father that's an entrepreneur that owns a construction company, you're sweeping out houses when you're 13 years old. So I kind of, my first real estate experience was just, I didn't know what real estate was, but I was doing the work. So I started cleaning houses, doing my thing, drive me to those job sites, whatnot. And that's all I knew. And so I decided I didn't want to do that. Fast forward to me becoming a little older, getting out of high school and graduating. And I said, hell with that. I wanted to join the military. So I joined the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. And then I got back out. I mean, this is kind of a fast synopsis and diving into our real estate talk. But I got out of the Marine Corps and I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't know what else to do for work. I really never had a job for somebody else other than construction companies and family. And so I just jumped right into construction again. And I really didn't enjoy it. I was working with my father again. And it just was like it was like a back step for me in my mind when I went back into that. But it was kind of the only thing I could do. But I mean, I was fairly young still. I got out of the Marine Corps and I was 22 years old. So I was young. But at that time, I started to, look at all different options. I met some guys at the gym that were entrepreneurs. One was he owned a landscaping business. Another one was in real estate. I didn't know what he did. At the time, I didn't know what he did. And now I find out, like back in the day, a long time ago, he was actually a wholesaler and he did short sales. He did fix and flips. He did all sorts of stuff. I had no idea. Like years later, it all came together. Funny enough. But he was like, you should start your own business, construction. So he kind of inspired me to do that. He put the bug in my ear. So I go to my dad and I'm like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm just going to start building some houses, which was the evolution of what I knew. I mean, funny enough, new construction. So I went to him and said that, and he's like, yeah. He goes, okay, so that's what you want to do. He goes, I can help you a little bit in that since you have worked for me so long, construction, and that's what he's in. So I bought 2 lots and I built 2 houses. And I made more money on one spec than I had made, working hourly for my family the whole year. Wow. So I was stoked, man. I was sold. I was like, I'm on my own. This is amazing. $40,000. So I was like, oh God, how old was I? It was 2014. So that's when I started my business and did that. The other one didn't do so well. The market had shifted a little bit. It was up and down, still wasn't great. And I made some money though. So I made some money and I wasn't mad about it, but I was like, oh, but that's a big difference. So it was like, making the 40 and then making, I walked away with like less than 20. I was like, oh, I could see how you can get into a bind. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. So that was my first experience with real estate, really, like anything about it. Like I didn't understand anything. So the first thing I ever did was get a construction loan, which is probably opposite of than most people in the investor world.
So you bought 2 lots and then you built houses and then you said you made 40 on them?
Yeah, I made 40 on one of the specs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was fortunate to be able to buy the lots because my father was able to put down the down payment for the lots. So he partnered with me on them and then I built them. And so my company, essentially built them and he supervised and helped me learn that.
You just said, so you were an entrepreneur. You had your own company. What did you just start? I know you said you worked with your dad. Did you build that construction company from the ground up, or did you just kind of hop in and partner with your dad?
So technically on those deals, I would have partnered with him because he was more of a financial partner. But I was the sole owner of my company. So I started my company from allegedly ground up. But I mean, I had financial help as far as somebody like signing on the guarantor note for my construction loan.
Wow. And how long were you doing the construction company for?
So I own the construction company, and actually, funny story is I still technically own the construction company, but I was building, and so to transition into that, I built those houses, and I got a few customs off those houses. So customs are people that have come to you and they want you to build their house. They don't have plans, they want to start and regenerate that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is like guaranteed income versus me just praying that I sell a spec. Which could be a liability, And so I got a few customs off of that and built a little reputation and a brand, put a few houses in the parade. I asked the clients, I would ask them if I could put it in the parade of homes, and I would get more brand from that. I'd get more clients from that. And that ultimately helped propel my construction company. And, I continued to build customs and built up to a 7-figure, company. We were doing quite a bit up until I actually fully transitioned. Like my last custom that I phased out of was at the beginning of this year. So the first quarter of 2022. But so it kind of overlapped, right? I didn't just jump off and go be an investor. So let me rewind. When I started that spec, I was very ambitious, and just building a couple specs I was very bored. I mean, it wasn't enough work for me to be doing, like, in my mind. I didn't have kids yet. And so the buddy from the gym that pushed me to own my own business, he's like, you can buy some rentals from me. Well, I had no idea. I'm like, you got to be making money on these things. How are you making money? You're giving me these deals that, I'm buying this house for 65 grand. I know it's worth about 95. Where are you making your money? He goes, I make about 10 grand on these things. And I just was like, oh, okay, cool. You're making money. Anyways, I'll close that. I had the lending ability at that time because I'd built a reputation. So like 2015, 2016. And so now the banks he had given me some lenders, and like, this is all before I really knew anything about real estate investing. I was just kind of trusting those guys. They led me in the right direction to call the banker. I would just call the banker. I would meet the banker. I'd go meet the banker. I just did action. And I really had no idea about real estate investing. I just knew I needed to own rentals, right?
Yep.
So, anyways, I accumulated almost like 8 or 9 properties at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So buying holds, and I had rehabbed them because I had a construction company. So I just get the guys over there. I do this. I had vendors already set up with my accounts. I was moving and grooving, but I didn't know what I had as far as a real estate investor perspective. I really did not know. I had lack of education. I just had a lot of willpower and grit. And so, what happened was, a few went vacant. Like, I was a horrible property manager. So I was like, I hate these things. I'm a builder. I'm a cool builder. That's what I mean. It's just the dynamic of the two different thinking processes. Yeah. I still have a lot of builder friends, but they don't even own investments, so, they'll do millions and millions worth of real estate, but they don't do any investments. But that being said, so my mindset was off, and I was like, I need to figure this out. So I started, getting into education and whatnot, and I finally got the education. But with those,
what education? I don't want to gloss over that.
Yeah. So the first education I really got was from him, but it was just a high level. Like, he was vague. He's just doing his business. It wasn't like a one-on-one mentorship by all means.
Gotcha.
But the education that I really got was jumping into it by action, right? I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I ended up selling that portfolio. I had 3 vacant.
Oh, really?
I was hemorrhaging money. I wasn't managing them correctly. I had a Section 8 one. I was like, hell yeah, Section 8, government's going to pay me. Government is paying me. Well, the government stopped paying me because the lady that was in the house, the tenant, put a hole in the door and busted a hole. And then they did their inspection. Well, and then so they were like, well, so the government, the housing authority, told me that I needed to fix the door, or they weren't going to pay me. I was like, I didn't put the hole in the door. You can look at your initial inspection and see that door was great when you guys initially inspected it and allowed this person to come in there. And they're like, no, you need to fix it. It's inhabitable. There's a big hole in the front door. And I argued with them. Well, I argued with the housing authority, which does not care if I get paid or not. And so I argued with them, and they just drug that payment out for like 6 months until her lease popped. And so I was paying for the mortgage while she was not paying me rent. The government was not paying me rent. And so I've made a lot of those fun mistakes like that. But I have Section 8s now, which is funny. But but you don't know. So, but the education, I did get some education. So I did go down the rabbit hole of YouTube wasn't even really huge that time. I mean, it was out, but if you look back at 2015, 2016, it wasn't what it is today. I mean, you didn't have big figureheads like there is out there.
I think Max Maxwell was like the first guy to kind of really get big in that kind of YouTube University. Well, and I guess Bigger Pockets before that. But I mean, when he came out, 2016 or so.
Yeah, Bigger Pockets was one. I guess they were kind of on the back end of my experience learning, and then Robert Kiyosaki's stuff was out, so I bought some of Robert Kiyosaki's, how to fix and flip, how to do this, how to do the programs, and I spent a chunk of change on that. But it was worth it.
Did you go to the seminar?
Yeah, I did the seminar.
Okay,
I did it all.
Isn't that like $50,000?
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
I think we had a guest on here earlier, and it was just like, and I had to ask the same thing, right? It's a big chunk of change, and they sell you on how to do certain things, but that's
it was
good.
like 2 years. I mean, I was willing to pay whatever it took. I knew that I didn't have the information, and I saw what the power of the information did for other people.
There you go.
And I mean, my history goes back to I know you were a prior firefighter. I went through municipal fire safety. I got my degree when I got out of the Marine Corps. I thought I was going to go into that as well. I did basic EMT. I did that, and I was like, right when I started applying, every other vet was getting out of the Marine Corps or the Army, and there was like 1,000 people applying for a 4-person position in our local, municipality. And so I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work out for 35 grand. I think I'm going to make 35 grand a year here. I know I only work 11 days a month, but I just made 45 on that house, so I'm pretty good. So. Anyways, yes, that education was a chunk of change. It was expensive for sure, but it was worth it in my opinion. I mean, it is what it is.
No, for sure. Well, I mean, so you had this great experience with your first couple of rentals, and then you go in and you spend the money to learn more about real estate. I mean, why were you so? There's something twisted in your head that made you go from a terrible rental portfolio to I want to go deeper into this.
I knew I was making mistakes. I knew that I was doing something wrong.
Gotcha.
And I just didn't know. I mean, you couldn't at the time. You can't put a pin on it. So I was like, I got to figure this out. And so, of course, things start popping off, and you're like, oh my gosh, now I know when the information's being released, because I was already actively doing it, right? Like, so some of the people in the classes with me or in the seminars and things like that, they're all like taking notes and trying to figure it out. And I'm like, oh yeah, I could have done that. That's a good idea. Yeah, that would save me a lot of money. And but what was beneficial about it is I got to implement it like real time, like while I'm in it. Cause I mean, I turned one of our, for instance, I should say this saved me money, because I turned one of our rentals, that specific rental, the Section 8 one, that had been vacant, that I'm just ready to get rid of this stuff. And it wasn't like 2020 or 2021 where you could sell a pile of shit for gold. And so I was like, I mean, people would they would hustle you. It's kind of like where our market's going now. And so, so what we did was we ended up contract for deeding that first house, or the house that we had that we couldn't rent out. We didn't want to fix it anymore. We dumped a bunch of money into it. They trashed it. I was ready to be out of rentals. I'm a big builder now. Look at me. And so I'm like, get rid of this $700 a month thing while I'm over here building $1 million houses. And it's just like kind of my attitude. So my attitude was wrong. But we ended up contract for deeding that house and ended up making money on it. And the guy ended up paying it off, and I gave him the property at the final payoff. But I made, X amount of dollars a month in interest on it. And it ended up being a good deal. It saved myself from losing money.
So you go into this fantastic education program. The education program is, what gets us a lot, right? For me, it was the book, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that got me started. So let me ask you this. After you learned that, did you continue to buy rentals, or did you go into transactional stuff? What did that look like?
Okay. So from that period on, I just had that one. I really started to double down on my active income, which was my building company. And so I started scaling my building company, and I really went back to that because I was a little scorned. Even though I had the education, I still had my hands slapped. And so I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I gotta wait. I gotta wait. And I just waited and waited. And then about, I want to say 2020, I was like, we really need to look back at this. We have the education now. We know so much more. I'm talking like to my wife, my partner, and she's like, yeah, I know this is the true way we need to do this. We're not huge 401k people, but we kept put money into it. So we went back to real estate and said, hey, let's do this from a different angle with our education now and our experience and a solid
Mhm.
other business. And so she ended up getting her license, and she's like, I'm going to do some retail stuff. So in 2020, I was like, at least we can beta test this. So you
Right.
can go back into it with at least you could get a couple of listings, get, that are outside of our business, and we're going to make an extra buck or two. And then you can also start to dabble back in the real estate investing stuff. And so she did. She goes, I'm going to try to wholesale some stuff. I'm like, okay. Because we knew what it was. I mean,
Right.
she
And
we come from
you learned it
the
from that
opposite.
course.
Yeah, we learned it
Okay.
from that course. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, you don't know fully how things transaction wise work until you just do it.
Yep.
And so we're huge action takers. But anyways, so we go, and she actually got a house under contract from the MLS, or a neighbor told her
wow.
about one on the MLS. And so she got the deal, and then she ended up wholesaling that deal to a friend of ours that's another builder, and she made like 10 or 15 grand on that deal.
Wow.
And so that perked my ears. And at the end of the year, I'm looking at the financials, and I'm like, you made pretty damn good money. I'm doing new construction. I'm doing big houses. The majority of stuff that I was building at the time was, $700,000 plus. And if I did a remodel, it was like $300,000 to $400,000. And in Oklahoma, that's a big house. I mean, there's not as many $1 million homes. So I was doing high end stuff. You could in Oklahoma, just for your listeners, you can get like a 5,000 square foot house for $1 million pretty easily. So you got nice houses for that price range. So I was doing a remodel, and this remodel ended up taking me about 8 months at the time. And I made like what she made in one transaction. I ended up making, I would say she did another couple wholesales or so, or a few transactions that she made in like, less than 2 days worth of work realistically. And I was like, oh, we got to go all in on this. We got to go back and revisit. And so during that 2020 to where we are standing here today, we accumulated rentals, and I finished working for my clients, and I just kind of slowly phased out of new construction of that side of it. And we built up a portfolio. We still continue to build a portfolio today, but we mainly do wholesale, and we do very few fix and flip. I really hate holding a lot of property for a long time. I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. But because in my mind, knowing what I know and having the ability with the banks and the reputation, I know that if I'm going to fix it, why not just keep it? Why not just keep it? Or I still do. And one of my biggest things now, and something that I'll probably present on back with CG, is my contract for deeds. I'll give my history on that, how it saved my neck on that one. And I really do like those because it allows me to do a lot more with properties that I necessarily wouldn't want to put in my portfolio, but it gives somebody else a home and the ability to create equity in their own property that may not have an opportunity to do that.
Wow. Now, did your wife ever do retail transactions, and how many rentals do you have right now?
Yes. So she did quite a few. I would say quite a few. Is 1 year. I think she did 4 or 5. Okay. Some bigger deals, which are great when you look at it from a commission side.
Yeah.
But she didn't enjoy it that much. I mean, as anybody knows that's been in real estate, agent side, MLS side, it's the same grind as being a builder. It's probably better than being a custom builder, but it's the same grind. And then our portfolio right now, including like our contract for deeds and stuff like that, I think we have 14 units. So not a lot, but we're on the way to scaling up that at the same time of building this business out.
Well, that's a lot to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So 14 units and continuously to still build that. Let me ask you this, Austin. So your wife was crushing it. You said, hey, we need to kind of partner up and get into this real estate thing. You had your construction business. What did it take for you? Because we all know in the beginning, you do a deal here and there, right? Deal 1 month. It's going to take a couple months to get another deal, right? And a lot of people go through that struggle of getting that consistent deal flow.
Yeah.
What took you and your wife from doing that first year of a couple deals to just consistent deal flow?
Like what did it take as far as business wise, or what did it take timeline?
Yeah, let's go both.
Okay.
If I was somebody who said, Austin, how the heck can I get a deal every month? And a deal flow to some people, right? Like to us, we're probably looking for 10 plus deals a month, right?
Yeah.
But for some people, maybe they just want a deal a month, right? But
Oh,
what
I
would
mean,
you do?
I remember that feeling, I remember that. I wanted to see this pay off. At first, I just wanted to see that it was possible. You know what I mean? And when she
Yeah.
got that transaction on the side, it made it feel real. And I think that's what a lot of people really need. They need that juice to help them to see that it's actually possible to happen. But it took me, my gosh, it took us, I want to say 6 consistent deal flow. We were doing one a month, I would say, after about 90 to 120 days.
That's not bad. That's really
no,
good.
but we have a lot of, yeah, it's not bad at all, but you got to look at like what you spend in on it and I had the capital to be able to spend some of that because I still had other operational businesses. So
I want to point that up. Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
That's actually, and I say that, and I say that all the time, is because when I first got in this business, I was in debt. I was over $100,000 in debt. With what you saw, what I spoke on in our CG meeting, but yeah, a lot of people come on and they show the flashy stuff in social media saying, look at what we did, right, in such a short amount of time. And it's like, well, you don't understand that one, they knew business, they knew sales, and they had a lot of capital to put into marketing right away.
Yeah, they had.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I have a good friend of mine that's actually trying to get into wholesaling now. He's working on it. He spent a bunch of money. He's not in real estate in general right now. I think he has, a one VRBO. He lives out of the country because he's in the military. But he struggled with this specific scenario. And he started dumping money into marketing and trying to figure all that out. And then another thing I think that gets maybe sold or misconstrued with wholesaling is like, just go out there and you can do it with no money. And yes, that is true. Like you can do it with no money. Like I don't want to mislead anybody. You can go out there and put the sweat equity in. You can go knock doors. You can do that, but it depends on what position you are in your life. If you're trying to go knock doors and hustle this and that, and you got 4 kids at home and a full-time job, it's a different scenario, isn't it? So You're right about the misleading information sometimes on social media. Truly, a lot of people do. They do outbound marketing a lot of times. So you're having cold callers, you're having SMS, you're doing the mailers like old school, or you're doing the bandit signs, things like that. And that's going to cost you money. And you're not going to see that return for a while. You may not see that return at all if you give up. And so that's where people get, I think, struggle.
Yeah, 100%. Austin, let me ask you this. What does your team look like now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Awesome. So we're actually scaling our company now. I like to think we really only fully committed to this just this year in 2022. But it's myself, which I'm basically CEO. I was the beginning of acquisition, so I was the one calling everybody, wearing like 50 different hats. Still probably am doing a lot of that. Most of us do in small business. My wife, she's on the dispo side since she's an agent, and so she's able to network that side of it, and she does all the dispo, helps with the listings, or if we do any innovations and things like that. Then I had 2 acquisition managers. One just left me yesterday, but I mean, if you want the real business, I'm as real as it gets.
High turnover.
It is a high turnover. I mean, I get it. You get beat up on the leads, a little time like this in the market and whatnot. So, but yeah, I still got 1 acquisition manager. I'll end up bringing some more on. I have a bookkeeper that's followed me through all of my companies, and she's still with me. And then I still have another person on our team that's virtual, and she actually operates. I have a service business, construction service business that I started back in about 2015 as well. So,
nice.
But I just didn't bring it up because it gets overwhelming.
It was overwhelming just thinking about it.
Yeah.
So you had an acquisition guy that just left, and including myself. And I mean, just to be totally transparent, something I've shared already on the show is, I'm the only acquisition guy in our business, but we did have 4 at one point in the middle of the year. We went from like 2 to 4. I was always keeping about 2 to 4 acquisition guys. I was always trying to train up, but actually when the market shifted, I got, everybody kind of just let go. I actually let them go. Some left, and we did a lot of changing. So going back to you, why did your acquisition guy leave And then also, how does your onboarding and training look?
Yeah, so that's something that we're sharpening all the time, right? And so let's rewind back to why he left. Yeah, you can't really guarantee why somebody leaves. A lot of times, the answers they give you are, I think, fluff, or maybe they're just bored. Everybody's answers and reasons are different for why they don't want to do what they're doing. If I were to guess, the real reason is probably just burnout. I mean, people get a little burnout, and they're a little. I try to keep the sales floor a little fun and things like that, but I don't know if they come from a very square environment to where they're coming from another job where they have to do X, Y, and Z every single day, and then they jump into a sales floor. They don't necessarily know how to transition from turning A, B, C, and D widgets and then checking in, checking out to things like the way you and I operate, which is
100%.
We've created our own schedules, created our own business. We create, if you had to go pick up your kiddos right now, you just go do it. We think differently. Agents think differently. People that are independent salespeople think differently. And I see people that come from a plug and play type employee coming into the sales team. They get burnt out because they mentally think that they can't have fun or anything like that. I guess that's kind of how we're programmed from school, right? But that's my guess. Just burnout.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think the longest acquisition guy we've had now, I think it was about 6-7 months or so. And yeah, usually
that's good.
And that was one guy, right? But to be truly honest, it's something I worked on. You've probably seen it. Steve Trang and Ren decided to put this thing together. I've been thinking about joining because I was in the service as well. And, we come a lot, it brought us a lot of leadership.
Awesome.
And I felt like I had some good leadership coming into this business, but I feel like I could sharpen that tool tremendously, building that sales team. Now, so we'll be building our sales. I got another sales guy actually starting next week, so we're going to start building that sales team back up. But just keep in mind, I had my best month yet with me just being the sole salesperson.
Oh, dude, so I don't doubt it.
You know how that
absolutely.
is. You know how that is, right? That by giving that up, right? And I try my best not to micromanage when it comes to sales. And I love that your guys' structure with you and your wife sounds like you're the visionary. Your wife's possibly the integrator. It's kind of, we have the same thing. My wife handles
probably like a forced integrator. I don't know if she enjoys that, but
it's the same, right? It's the same.
Yeah.
My wife is crushing it. She handles the operation sides with our TC, Dispo, and all of our VA stuff. But when it comes to sales,
yeah,
it's hard to keep that team. Like our operation side, they stay, right? They stay and they're doing their thing.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Man, when it comes to sales, it's tough.
Well, yeah. I mean, going back to our training and onboarding. So we've had a few people run through here before that. I've had 2 others prior to this, and I didn't have any onboarding really for them. And that's one thing that I've learned really well from CG and from other entrepreneurs in general in this space. And so we do like a 3-day onboarding now. And so I just segment it out, and we'll do like the PowerPoints. We'll walk through everything, and I don't let them touch the phones until the 4th or 3rd or at the end of the 3rd day with me. And so that's been super helpful. And I help. And because, you have some people that come, especially like the ones now, they come from never having any real estate experience at all.
Right.
And so they don't even have bad habits to have because they have no clue what they're saying for the most part. And they need to really understand what they're saying in order to hit these objections and things like that. And it's kind of weird when you're training people, and you can correct me if you feel different, but in this space on an acquisition side, you want them to follow the script for the most part until they learn the script. And then now you need them to pivot and act like a human again. And so,
you hit it on the head. You hit it on the head there.
It's and Ren talks about it a lot with like, just talk to people, you're really trying to get to their real reasons. But at first, if they don't know the script or the business, they're going to have to sound like a robot. And that's where, your months come in and you take the losses, and it kind of sucks. I mean,
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Austin, let me ask you this. So we talked about the sales team. What does your marketing look like right now? Are you doing outbound, inbound? What does that look like?
Hey, so right now we're doing all cold callers. I had an SMS. We started our very first, how we got our deals originally, very start of the business was only SMS. So we had SMS campaign, and then we transitioned to cold callers just because it was some of the companies can be more consistent with how many leads they give you per dollar I spend. Now, I don't know how that works out directly, but I know it's funny, but they'll give you leads, like 2 leads per agent a lot of times. And so I went that route because I felt it was more consistent. Even if the lead was a bunk lead, I just knew what to expect. It was measurable for me. So we do mainly cold callers right now at this moment, which I will be transitioning in the middle of this month, but I have 12 cold callers and I have 1 SMS.
Incredible.
And so it's a lot of lead flow, but it's a lot. I get a lot of leads that need a little more attention.
Exactly. That is a lot of lead flow. I mean, when you say 12 cold callers, each one bringing in 2 leads a day.
Yeah, I'm averaging 24 plus. Yeah, anywhere from 20 to 25,
There you go. And so one, are you pulling like massive data for the cold callers? And also two, who's handling, who's taking those inbound leads?
So those leads, the way that works for us is for right now is that the leads, we send out that information, they get the data. I scrape all the data for them. They call them, we get those inbound leads. And once those inbound leads come in, my acquisitions guys call them.
Okay. So
we don't filter them that much.
Manager?
No, I don't have any lead managers. Nope. Not right now. I know some people like to use lead manager to qualify a lot of leads and then tee them up for their closers. But for right now, we've been running like this. And I don't feel like I overqualify leads at all because of this. Now, when I did overqualify leads, I got a lot less leads. And I'll be honest, at least in our market and how things were structured with us, I feel like those leads were the exact same.
Okay, nice.
You're still dealing with people, so
for sure. Does your acquisition guys ever feel like they get overwhelmed?
Some no, they were burning through it at the beginning when they were real motivated. And I had both of them. I don't think they're not too overwhelmed now. I think they're doing it really well. Yeah, they're handling it really well.
And your sales process, I know you did the Eric Klein sales process.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing that, or did you tweak it a little bit? What does that look like?
I follow his sales process. It was really the best. I've done a couple others, and I've tested a couple other scripts and things like that, and I have tweaked it a bit. But I find myself more successful with Eric Klein's sales process. So yeah, big shout out to him.
Fantastic. Let me ask you this, Austin. Right now, what is your biggest struggle? Oh, also before we get to that, the marketing. Remember when I was telling you about when I did the presentation on SMS marketing? Back in CG, literally don't even really do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's how you gotta. I mean everything that's happened in the last 4 months, 3 months is really it's just different. I mean, so everybody's got to pivot.
Yeah, we do it. We were doing it such mass, and we could still do it, but we really just focused on like niche list, and then what we do now is we just dumped everything into online marketing.
Yeah, are you doing like SEO and PPC?
Yep,
that's what I'm getting ready to do. I actually got off a call yesterday with somebody, and they said that the rewards on those are so much better. You're actually getting somebody that wants to sell, and you're not just getting
conversations are night and day different, dude.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Austin, what's your number one struggle in this? I mean, with the market shifting and everything, and also you trying to scale, what's your number one struggle right now?
There's always all sorts of struggles. So to pin it down, I don't know if this is a struggle, but this is something that I think I struggled with. And then I'm still thinking about the number one thing, because there's lots of things you struggle with, but you just work through them. Like you're just constantly working through struggles all the time. But, is like which way you want to operate your business. So for anybody listening to this, there's so many different models that you can operate a wholesale or real estate investing business. And I think that alone was overwhelming to me, because you have to figure out which ones align with you. You can hear the glitz and the glam, and I felt like CG's given me an opportunity to interview or call people and ask questions very broadly. You hear about and I say the glitz and the glam, you hear about people doing only virtual wholesaling and they're just killing it. And then they're like, you're sitting on your couch or you're working 4 hours a week. It sounds like kind of a scam, right? I mean, it sounds too easy to be true. Yep. But then there's times that I've spent less than 4 hours and locked up a deal and made 20 grand. So it is there, but is that a scalable business? And that's that I had to ask myself, from my perspective, and what we want to do it's not. So one thing that is really hard is trying to narrow down the way you want to model your business. And that was a struggle that's been a struggle for the beginning years that we've started. So, but now that we've harnessed it in, we're getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, right? On how we want that to play out. And now where we're getting tighter and tighter and tighter, the market shifted. So now we're having to shift and get tighter and tighter and tighter.
Yep.
And so I would say that overall generic topic has been our struggle, because some people have, if you've been in this and been full-time wholesaling or a real estate investor, that's all you did for the last 5 years, 3 years, it's going to look different than somebody that just dove into it 100% like we did in the last, I want to say now almost 12 months though, or less. I mean, we had massive real estate experience coming from another side, right? Like 7-figure construction companies, building houses, vendor lists, 90-day payouts for vendors. I could get lumber stacks coming in all day long on my credit, which is opposite than most real estate investors.
Yeah.
But having the business and the things built out and the time dedicated, it was almost like bootstrapping a whole nother company again, which it is. But so that's kind of where we're at in our growth model. But pushing forward and scaling it, my main objective on treating this business different than how I've grown my other businesses is getting higher level operators in here so that we can go to bigger places and having other A players on the team. And that's probably my next struggle that I'll be working through.
I like that too. I've heard people say that, right? By getting high A players onto your team, but first we got to become an A player. And I can see that in you, Austin, that you are already an A player. So it doesn't sound like you're going to have too much problem finding good A players and keeping those A players. It's just going to take, marketing to get them.
Right.
But for guys like, myself and even other individuals, right? And that's something, an advice that I would always want to get out there, is always focus on yourself to become that A player to attract A players. That's why I'm always trying to work on ourselves, and surround myself with gentlemen like you to always do it. So that's awesome. I'm glad you said that.
But being a good leader, it takes a different leader for different levels, right? I mean, you come from the military, and that's a good foundational basics. But what I've learned as far as leadership goes and being a leader for my company is that I have to be different. I have to be able to release. You want to micromanage at first. I mean, you really just instinctively do, because this is your baby. This is something you're cultivating. This is your livelihood a lot of times at the beginning. And so you have to be able to trust other people with that responsibility, but you can't be too hands off. In the past, I've made mistakes where I'm like, well, here's your onboarding process. I slap them on the back and say, I trust you. Don't worry. You guys will be fine. I like you. Come on, Aaron, you'll do great. And then you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm too nervous. I feel like I'm going to fail. And they bounce, so there's being a better leader is 100%, I have to change in order to expect a difference in our companies for sure.
Quick, funny story. You're right. You do have to micromanage just a little bit. I had, John Martinez.
Yeah.
So I bought his course, I don't know, 2 years ago, whatever. And, so I'm going to have my sales guys go through this $8,000, $6,000, whatever it costs course. Go watch it. Right. So I thought I could give this to, hey, go watch it at home, knock it out. Give me the notes in a week or whatever. Right.
Yeah. Just like you would.
Do you think they went and watched it?
No.
Nobody did. I had to sit there booties down. I say before work starts, you have to come in at 8:00, 7 o'clock, and we're going to watch each video every single day. And unfortunately that's just the name of the game.
So our schedule, I set our schedule up to where we were doing training for those two guys, those two acquisition managers, for the first 3 hours of the day. So for the first 30 days, that's what we were doing. But, they're doing a training on something that they really have no understanding of. And so I would then get on the whiteboard and start explaining and walking through things. And they're probably thinking in their mind, they have never said this, but like, why do I need to learn about these mortgages and these notes and the things you're walking me through if I'm just talking to the seller and getting them locked up? And it applies, though, when we're having those conversations with these sellers, and you come up with more solutions when you're actually talking to them instead of trying to make sure that you're hearing yourself say the right words.
100%. And that goes along even with real estate agents. And the reason why I say that is because I want this show to also be for real estate agents who are trying to build $1 million business. We've seen a lot of real estate agents, they go out there and they take the small course and they know nothing about real estate. But yeah, that goes along with people in wholesale innovations, fix and flips. You're going to need to know the small things in the business, the basics. Matter of fact, I just got my real estate license because I want to make sure that we do have the basics. And so we're going to be starting to get everybody in our company their license. At this moment, everybody in our company does have their real estate license, just so that we know that everybody has the basics. Now, am I going to do that for every person at this moment? I don't know. They got to qualify first. They got to be with us probably for 6 months. And say, all right, let's go get your real estate license, right?
Yeah. I ended up, funny story, I got my license. My wife got hers. I was like, yeah, I need to get mine. I need to just do it. And then I let mine lapse. I was like, I'm out. I never did one transaction. I went through the whole thing. I spent the money. I passed the test. And then I was like, you know what? You got your license. The company's good. I'm out. I'm not doing it.
There you go. Are you guys listing properties?
She does. Yeah, sometimes we will. So if we do our own fix and flips, or if we want to put stuff in there, innovations on the MLS, sometimes we'll use we'll either use her or we'll have somebody else do it. But yeah.
Yeah, that's been one thing in our has been a game changer in our company, is by offering the 3, if sometimes 4, if you want to count creative, the 3 solutions. That's the cash, the novations, or we call it the retail buyer program. Right. And then we do list the property. So we've been starting to do list properties in our team, but we're able to pitch all that and say, hey, seller, what do you want? And then boom, they pick whatever they want, and then we get to go down that direction, right?
Gotcha. Oh, so you mean list properties as in like, do we specifically list their property, somebody else's property?
Correct.
No, we don't. Right now, we don't. We try to stay away. We just haven't done it because it could be retail properties a pain, man.
Retail properties are a pain. I just figured that for us, it was just, man. I mean,
it's another cash flow, right? It covers some overhead.
It's all transactions. Yeah. So we're strictly right now a transactional company, and I have the back office. They handle, because I'll get the listing. My name will be on it, but my back office handles everything else, right?
Yeah, that's the way to do it. And what agent handles that for you? Somebody else in your company?
Wife. At this moment, it's my wife. Yeah, so she'll handle the agent stuff, and then we do have a TC in house. Yeah, matter of fact, we want to get her an assistant because she's great with people. She could use some help with the paperwork. So.
Awesome. No, yeah, I forgot about that. I do have TC here too, so we have in-house TC.
Can't beat it, man.
You have to. That was where my wife was spending the majority of her time, and I said, no, we need to spend more time on the dispo side and really networking with that and get all this, just the grind of the TC stuff off of your plate. Do you guys use any virtual people or everybody in office?
No, great question. So right now we do have a couple virtual people. We have a admin, and so she'll be handling a lot. Even this podcast, she'll be handling a lot of that stuff. What is it? We have a lead manager. We have a dispo lead manager. We have 2 now dispo lead managers. Okay. Matter of fact, but I put all of them on the dispo side right now. So I'll get the contract, and now my dispo lead managers will call, and then I have a dispo manager in office. His name's Alex. Fantastic individual, but he's able to do sales and negotiate with the sellers and we call it, getting the contract, getting the assignment contract. Even with our novations, when an agent comes and calls in, he handles all those calls. Then once he gets the contract, he sends it over to the TC. Yeah. And the reason being with the TC, they're going to have to, they got to talk to escrow. They got to talk to title. They got to talk to, yesterday she was on the phone with banks. She talks to the seller. She talks to buyers. Every time there's an update, she calls them, gives them those updates, right? So there's a lot of moving. Like, you're just gonna be on the phone all day, right?
Yeah.
And then my wife, what she does is she now every single morning they bring out the escrow board and they talk about every single property, and she'll kind of manage that. So
cool. I like it. That's awesome, man. How are you guys doing with novations right now?
Pretty good. We just threw a bunch on the board because the way we changed up our sales process just a little bit. But we slapped a lot of innovation on the board last month. So they're all on the MLS right now. They're doing pretty good. We had to change a few flat fee services. Yeah. To figure out the right one, because some flat fee services do not let you have the equitable interest listed.
Yeah.
But shout out to I think it's called Broker Less. They're all about it. They're like, all right, give us the property, we'll put it on there. So
nice, man. That's awesome.
Austin, let me ask you this. With the market shift, what strategies do you plan on using to get through this recession and then coming out even stronger and better on the other side?
Yeah, so one of the number one things we're pivoting to right now is inbound marketing, like you said. So we're going to get some more PPC. We're going to jump on that. We're going to start doing a little bit of SEO, and so that our leads are much more qualified. They're reaching out to us, telling us that they are interested in selling in the first place. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, one of the ways we try to categorize things into buckets. So if we can buy the property and it makes sense for a wholesale, then if that's a good scenario. If it doesn't, then we see if it makes sense for us to purchase, or because we really don't do any flips. If I'm going to flip it I feel like I should keep it, especially in our market. And so we're going to keep it. And if we look at it from a keep standpoint, from a buy and hold, we look at it from two categories there. So it splits out to either a rental or it splits out to a contract for deed. And so we would sell or finance it for somebody else.
Are you doing? Oh, sorry.
Go on. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, are you doing a lot of creative stuff right now?
Yeah. And then that's our third bucket is the creative finance. And so even the creative side on us buying, like I have a 10 unit package portfolio that I'm negotiating right now. She's going to finance it. And so we're going to hopefully get that wrapped up either before the end of the year or the first of next. But that's what we're doing. And I've created finance deals before. So I have a fourplex that I creative financed. It was an amazing structure. It works out well. And I just refi out of those. I have good lending abilities. And I suggest that if you're on here, one of the biggest assets for me has been my ability to, and I don't come from the banking world, but I really enjoy understanding how all that stuff works and those leverage knobs, because as a new construction builder starting out, I would get shut down. And so they say, no, we can't do your loan. And I learned really quickly that, when I talk to Aaron, he says, no, but I may talk to another banker and they're like, oh yeah, that's no problem. And I was like, wait a minute. So it's not just me, it's what you guys want to lend on. And so I learned more about that. But creative financing is basically the third bucket that we see if it works for, and if not, then we kind of just let it go. But that's the strategies we're doing right now. And another thing that we're going to end up doing to kind of package that whole scenario up is we'll probably end up purchasing properties more. So, because I know that if it qualified for that first tier, that wholesale, that I can put it in my portfolio as a rental. I could creatively finance it to somebody else and go from there.
That's incredible. That's awesome, brother.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Austin. What have you read or listened to that just really inspired you recently?
Right now, what have I read? Oh man, I've listened to a lot of podcasts right now, so I haven't doing a lot of reading. I do focus. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's a good podcast?
I've been listening to. I listened to some of Ryan Pineda's podcasts recently with Grant Cardone. I think that was a phenomenal one. I've been diving a lot into what you're doing right now. I mean, you're putting yourself out there on social media. You're doing a lot with branding and podcasting, and I think that's huge. I think that's really, really, really big. And I think you and I are probably very similar in age, and I think that whole space has been underestimated by us. Because we also come from the transitional generation of CDs to flip phones to social media.
Great era.
And so but we also kind of have a stigma about get off your phone, you're wasting your time. And so at least I do. I shouldn't categorize you that, but a lot of times, like naturally, like put your phone down and get back to work. And now realistically, I'm like trying to break those habits, because that's your portal to the world if you're trying to build a brand and talk to other people.
100%.
So congrats on getting this going, man. You guys are kicking ass, and I think it's awesome.
I appreciate that. I know you were kind of asking for that link this morning. One thing we're doing is, every time, and as a businessman, you're always trying to, you got to do the system processes first, figure out what works, and then you just automate it. Right. So pretty much what the goal for this is, I get to hop on here. I talk to amazing people like yourself, and then everything in the back end just goes. Right. And we're going to hand this off to our administrative virtual assistant. She's a rock star. But anyways, we're going to have our checkoff list. So every time I reach out to a guest, they're going to have, it's just going to be like just a list to go down. Response, book a time. She has all the editing people edit, and then it gets posted. Right. So everything's just going to be automated in probably a week or two.
Awesome. Good for you guys. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, man.
And I appreciate it too. And also I see that you're building, you're building your own show. You're building your own, stuff that you just kind of mentioned. Tell us more about that. What does that look like?
Yeah, man. So my objective is just to put myself out there more and to provide information. Branding yourself, if you dive into that thought process, it's harder than I think for me than I thought, because I'm like, I'm not a categorized of just one person. Real estate isn't all of what I'm about. I love fitness. I love other things. I have a family. I love cars. I love all sorts of things. Like, we all have our hobbies. We all have our things we do outside of our work. But ultimately, being in line with your brand is the most important thing. So people can, like, know, and trust you. And so just building that, cultivating that kind of work, doing what you can to put yourself out there and then seeing what works. Kind of like I've always done, jumping into things. I just start going and then it starts to sort itself out and it'll clean itself up. So what we're doing now is we're pumping out a lot more content. At the beginning of the year, we'll probably start pumping out, 3 times more content. We're going to be on multiple platforms. I already have those platforms like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels, but we're going to start to up the volume of that. And I've gone through videographers. I've gone through, so many different things to really get the brand going. But what it ultimately comes back down to is with your iPhone and with very simple tools and hardly any expense, you could start talking to people around you, and you would be surprised on, how many people you can help, just as you are right now.
No, absolutely. No, that's awesome, brother. And so I'm going to end off the show with this. Austin, you're a complete go-giver. You're a massive action taker. You got a lot of good things going on for you. You're about to start this amazing brand. Tell the people where we could find you. And again, reach out to him, bug Austin, hit DM
Absolutely.
him. He's a massive go-giver, and he's going to help you. If you have any questions on some things that you just heard today, DM him. Austin, where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm mainly on Instagram. I'm on there all the time. I'm always posting on my stories, and I do a few reels. Like I said, we're going to step that up. So at Instagram, go to austin.hancock1, and then you can search me on Facebook. I don't even know my handle on Facebook, but I think on TikTok, my handle is the Austin Hancock. So but it's Instagram, direct message me there. I have a YouTube channel, and we're going to start scaling that as well. I love YouTube. It's a great source, and it's like a little investment each time because it doesn't go away. So I like YouTube, and we'll put more information out there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I see you guys building that amazing studio. So I can't wait to, if I'm not subscribed, I got to go subscribe right after this.
Check it out. Check out the YouTube channel. I have some old content on there. It's actually pretty entertaining. And I have some flip stuff I did on there like 2 years ago. So it's kind of cool.
Awesome. All right. Again, hey, this is the Real Estate Block Podcast. Thanks again, Austin, for being on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, brother.